Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is AndrewDFS. I'm a correspondent with FF Metrics, a site run by RC Fisher. He's an independent scout, best projections in the game, in-game summaries for every single matchup in any given week. I'm also the co-host of a podcast called Huddle Up. We release episodes every Wednesday and Thursday, so check us out. We're on Spotify. And right now, what we're going to do is go through the Week 11 Millie Maker winner and then talk about lineup strategies for Week 12. So for Week 11, the winner goes by the handle of JR Russell 1025. And the way that the lineup was constructed was playing a QB, but no other pieces to bring back with the QB. No receivers, no people from the other team. So that's a really uncommon way of winning a Millie Maker lineup. But there were some in-game stacks here. Devin Singletary and Tank Dell both had incredible days. I think they both combined for just under 54 points, which is amazing. And then another in-game stack that hit as well was Khalil Shakir and Dalton Kincaid. Shakir was a cheap play, only $3,200, but he had that long touchdown, which helped this lineup stand out amongst the other top lineups in the Millie Maker competition. Then there were several one-off pieces, including Brian Robinson, who had a good day just as a pass-catching back. I think that was where he did a lot of his damage. DJ Moore in his first game with Justin Fields, we called that out too as a potentially a good play. Tyreek Hill, who struggled against KC. This was his first game after that KC matchup in Europe, and he had a long touchdown. And Dallas D, who just keeps beating up on these weaker offenses. So that was the roundup for this lineup. And the other two things I want to call out here is the total points scored, 215. That's not too common with a Millie Maker winner. Typically, we're used to seeing like 250, 260. And another like odd thing about this lineup is the ownership percentage. So if you take the sum of the positions, the sum of the field column, you could see that totals out to 181.2%. Normally with Millie Maker winners, we see this percentage go like just under 100%, meaning that this lineup was on the chalkier side. Like you could see like Devin Singletary, Tank Dell, DJ Moore, even Tyreek Hill, like they had pretty significant ownership percentages. I think Devin Singletary might have been the chalkiest play in the entire pool, but hey, sometimes the chalk hits, and this lineup is the definition of that. The user that submitted this only submitted one lineup, so props to him. Congrats, and hope he does something fun with that $1 million prize. Now, let's dive into Week 12 to see how somebody here could win that prize as well. And let's preview that slate. So, Week 12 kicks off with the Jaguars and Texans in a crazy divisional game. Over-under is 47 there. Jaguars are 1-point road favorites. I think Texans win out eventually here, but I don't think that this game is going to be as high scoring as one thinks. Stroud has been kind of like he started struggling towards the end of the Cardinals game, and the Texans D is pretty good, so I don't think Lawrence is just going to walk all over these guys. So I don't know how I feel about stacking this one, but I think a lot of people are going to, focus on Stroud, who's been doing really well, and then Lawrence was the best stack, even though the Millie Maker didn't have it. Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley were the stack to own that week. Tampa Bay going into Indianapolis. This would have been a plus matchup for Rachaad White, but unfortunately he was a late add to the injury report on Friday. We don't know how severe this is, but late additions to the injury report are never a good thing. Over under 44.5. Colts are favored by 2.5. You can, play all the Colts receivers comfortably here. Tampa Bay secondary has its issues, and further, they don't really do that well on the road. So I think like Pittman, Downs, Pierce, they all have a lot of upside. I don't know that I'd start Gardner Minshew, but I could see the logic there. And I'm not too keen on Taylor this week. Tampa Bay does have a pretty good run defense. Next one, Patriots and Giants. 33.5 is the over-under, and that is the lowest over-under we've had thus far this year. Patriots are 3.5-point road favorites. I really don't think that Mac Jones should ever be a road favorite, or whoever they decide to roll out there. I don't think it's clear. The only things that I can see profitable here for a DraftKings perspective is playing Saquon Barkley or Patriots or Giants D. Other than that, count me out of this matchup. Both teams, the passing attack is really not there. A lot of people are going to be on Demario Douglas, but the thing to note there is he got a lot of the targets once Juju Smith-Schuster and their other receiver, his name doesn't come to mind, I think Kendrick Bourne, they were both out, and that's why Douglas got a lot of the targets. So I don't know that he's going to be able to pull that off again. Skipped over one. Panthers going into Tennessee to take on the Titans. Over-under there's 36.5. That's another low-scoring matchup. Titans are 3.5-point home favorites. I think that this can be a potential cheap stack with Will Levis and DeAndre Hopkins. I like that a lot. I would not touch Bryce Young here. I think the Titans are gonna get out-coached here with the Titans are gonna outcoach the Panthers. I think Vrabel's gonna really have a good game plan for Bryce Young. Titans D is in a really good spot. If you want to play Derrick Henry and Titans D, this is probably the week to do it. If Derrick Henry's ever going to pop this year, and he's been struggling, I think he's going to do it against the Panthers. Next one, Steelers-Bengals. Over under 35.5, another low-scoring one. Steelers are 1.5-point road favorites. I think there's some opportunity here with the Steelers OC changing. Maybe this turns into more of a pass-heavy attack, but it's hard. It's hard to see that actually hitting. I would consider Pickens in some of my lineups. If you want to get crazy, maybe Pickett goes nuts here with the new OC. I'm not holding my breath on that, though. The running backs are interesting. I think Joe Mixon is a good play with Jake Browning under center. Obviously, Cincinnati put Joe Burrow on IR. He's expected to miss the rest of the year, and Bengals playoff hopes are pretty much out the window. And on the Steelers side, running back-wise, Jalen Warren's just been outplaying Najee Harris all year. So with a new OC, it's conceivable that Warren gets a lot more of the carries, but it's risky. You really don't know what's going to happen. And Warren not getting the carries that he deserves could be more of a Tomlin thing than a Matt Canada thing, but we'll find out. Saints go on the road to take on the Atlanta Falcons. This game went from pick'em to Saints becoming 1.5-point road favorites. Over under here is 41.5. I don't like this game for any Falcons players. They are starting Desmond Ridder. The only one that I'd feel comfortable playing here is maybe Jonnu Smith, because that's Ridder's favorite target. But Saints D is legit. They're coming off a bye, and I think this is a bounce-back spot for Derek Carr. So you can play Derek Carr here. He's cleared. I think he passed through all the concussion protocol and everything. I would go Carr and maybe Rashid Shaheed there. Michael Thomas placed on IR. I think Shaheed's going to get a lot more of the targets. A.T. Perry is an underrated receiver for the Saints. If you're looking for a cheaper play, that's a good one. I'd avoid Kamara. It feels like Taysom Hill and Jamal Williams are really taking away Kamara's usage that he saw early on this season. So I don't think that Kamara's worth his price, even though this would be an amazing matchup for him. All right, now we're into 4 1 o'clock games. So Rams-Cardinals. Rams 2-point road favorites going into the desert to take on Kyler Murray, who's going to be without Michael Wilson for the second straight week. So I think Marquise Brown might also be dealing with an injury. This is a good spot for Greg Dortch, for Rondale Moore, Trey McBride. They should see increased usage. James Conner's been getting a lot more usage too, so he hasn't really done anything relevant fantasy-wise yet, so his price is a little suppressed. On the Rams side, Cooper Kupp is dealing with an injury. If he is out for the game, it doesn't look like he will be. It looks like he's going to play. But if he was out, Puka Nacua would have been in a smash spot here. I'm not convinced on either guy. They prevent each other from exploding. So one really needs to be out to play the other, and the way that they're priced in DraftKings, you need like a pop performance from them. One matchup that I do like is Kyren Williams coming back. He looks like he's been a full go. If you want some exposure into this game, maybe Kyren's going to be the right choice. Browns Broncos. So Cleveland is going into the Mile High City, taking on Broncos. Over under 37. Broncos 1 point home favorites. I think this is a spot where the Broncos let down. I know that's kind of surprising with Cleveland having a rookie quarterback, but their defense is legit. Top 5 is an understatement for them. So look for them to give Russell Wilson some fits. On the Cleveland side, I like Jerome Ford and David Njoku. Broncos run D is horrendous. You want to take advantage of that. Jerome Ford is only priced at $5,600. His price is coming down because Kareem Hunt had increased usage last game. And I think that could have been due to DTR, that being DTR's first game in. So Kareem Hunt and him probably worked a lot together with backups. And also Kareem Hunt is a pass-catching back, so he could, relieve DTR if he gets into trouble or whatever, quick checkdowns. David Njoku had 15 targets last game. That's hard to ignore at 4,100. You want to take advantage of that. He's also, tight ends are are the best friends of rookie QBs. So I think Njoku's in line for another good day here. Bills Eagles, high-powered game, 48.5. Eagles 3-point home favorites. I don't know how much I like this game when the week started, but I'm seeing that the weather isn't going to be all that great. If the weather's good, this is a great spot for Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs to take advantage of an Eagles secondary that's not all that great. So Eagles are coming off a crazy high. They got a road win on Monday Night Football, and they are like sitting on cloud 9. This is a spot where Bills can come in and really upset them. But again, before I tilt too heavy into this lineup, I need to know that the weather's going to be okay because the players here are very expensive. And here's another one. Chiefs Raiders. Chiefs 10-point road favorites going into Las Vegas in a dome to take on the Raiders. Over under here is 43. That might be one of the lowest over-unders with the game with Patrick Mahomes. I'll have to look that up after the podcast. But I like Patrick Mahomes here in this spot. Pair him up with Travis Kelce, coming off a really bad game against the Eagles on Monday Night Football. So road winners of Monday Night Football tend to deflate the next week because they're on a high. Home losers, which is the Chiefs here, they come back in a bounce back spot, and you can't ask for a better situation than going up against the Raiders and Travis Kelce. Like, they just looked awful. I think Mahomes and Kelce are gonna really go crazy on the Chiefs. I like everything here. I like Mahomes. I like Kelce. I like Pacheco. I like Chiefs defense. So if you really want to tilt into a game, that over-under is not doing justice for the fact that the Chiefs are really going to try to come out and curb stomp these guys. Okay, that is the main slate. Let's dive into DraftKings, and we can go position by position as we normally do. So give me a second while we transition out of that. And here is the DraftKings screen for the main slate competition. So highest price QB, we have Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, CJ Stroud. Those are our 4 expensive QBs for this slate. The one that I like the most out of all of this is probably Patrick Mahomes as of right now to have that bounce back game. But I also really like Josh Allen because he's going up against the Eagles and their secondary is not all that great. But really, if you're going to play Josh Allen, you got to be careful about the weather. So Mahomes doesn't really have to deal with that, given that he'll be playing in a dome. CJ Stroud, I think this can be a spot where he lets down. He's really expensive too. I think Houston wins the game. I just don't know that Stroud's going to be able to cover his salary. And Jalen Hurts, I mean, he's not a bad play, especially if the weather's bad. But I'm just looking at this from the perspective of I want to fade the winner of the Monday night road game, and I want to go in on the home losers of the Monday night game. There are very strong betting trends for that, and the way that I play DFS is I look at betting trends, and that's how I play my players. I try to uncover the players by understanding the betting trends. So it's a little bit of a different approach than what other people take. So, okay, we talked about the expensive options. Let's look at the more mid-priced options. So in the 6,000 range, we have 3 QBs. We have Murray, Lawrence, and Stafford. If I had to choose one of them, it would probably be Kyler here, but I'm not too crazy about any of these guys. I'd rather go to Derek Carr. I think Atlanta's a great matchup for him. So if you don't want any of the more expensive guys, Carr would be that mid borderline cheap play that I'd advocate for in week 12. And a good pair with Carr, obviously Olave's there, but I like Rashid Shaheed in this one. Rashid Shaheed and Carr usually get a lot of targets. If Jameis Winston was playing, I would have liked A.T. Perry more. But look for the Saints to really show Atlanta who's boss in this division, especially with Desmond Ridder playing quarterback. Cheap options, we talked about it. I think this is a good spot for Will Levis. He's at home. He'll have DeAndre Hopkins, and Carolina's just flailing. I think this is another spot where we see a rookie QB, Will Levis, outclass and outperform Bryce Young. So there'll be plenty of motivation for Will Levis to get going in this one. And then other than that, I don't see any QBs that I get excited about. Again, you can go with Pickett or maybe even DTR, but both of them are risky. I don't think it's that crazy, but I'm not going to do it. I see the logic in playing either of them, though. Okay, let's go to running backs. So, running back-wise, Kamara, Barkley, ETN, and let's even say Jonathan Taylor are the expensive plays of the week. Out of the 4, I'd lean on Barkley. It looks like New York's using him more as like a check down guy, and that's what we saw with the Commanders in the Commanders game. I don't love it though. I'd rather go cheaper on running back this week. I don't really like any of the 4 options. If we go to the more mid-price players, so in the 6,000 range, I know we included JT with the more expensive guys, but if we look in the 6,000 range, this is when I start really liking people. So Swift, I think, is a great play, especially if the weather's going to be bad. That can be a good leverage against the pool. That's going to be tilting on Hurts and maybe even Josh Allen. So I think that's a good play. Josh Jacobs, pass. KCD is really good. I don't think they're going to let Josh Jacobs have an explosive performance. Kyren Williams, he looks like he got activated off IR. Let's click into him really quick to just confirm. I know there was chatter about it. So he was activated off IR. He's good to go in the matchup. You want this matchup, ladies and gentlemen. This one could be good. A lot of people are probably going to be off of him because this is his first game coming back from injury, but this is precisely when you want to play him in a larger competition. So the last game he was in, ironically, against the Cardinals, where he had 158 yards rushing, 8 yards per carry, and got 1 touchdown. If Rams want to get going, if they want to go back to that midseason form, I think like they really started struggling once they lost Kyren Williams. So I think they're going to try to get him involved. Bijan Robinson, absolutely not. Pass, not against that Saints D. Derrick Henry, I like this one. I like this to be like Derrick Henry's like one pop game, and he's priced pretty damn good on DraftKings. 6,400 is not bad for Derrick Henry, who could easily take advantage of that really horrendous Carolina run D. It's so funny because Carolina and Denver are both horrendous against the run, like bottom of the league, 1 and 2, and they also are horrendous in on their O-line. So they just really struggle on the line. So I think they might be 1 and 2 in like the worst O-line rankings and run defense. So Definitely Henry's in a spot. You can pair him up with Titans D if you'd like. Bryce Young is a turnover machine. I expect Titans to get a nice pick here, maybe pick 6, defensive touchdowns, all on the table with the Titan when you go up against Bryce Young. Joe Mixon. So now that Burrow's out, I think Cincinnati's going to lean to more of a running attack. They're going to go more run heavy than usual, which will be a good thing for Mixon, bad thing for Chase, Higgins, whatever. So I think he's a fine play, not my favorite play. I love Isaiah Pacheco here. Raiders' run D is not that great. And I think that this is a spot where KC's just going to try to get right here. They're going to try to just blow these guys out of the water and make up for that embarrassing home loss on primetime. So I think Pacheco is going to be a big part of that. James Cook, I'm going to pass on him. I liked his usage against who the heck did they play? Why am I blanking here? The Jets. So that was the first game back. That was the first game where Joe Brady took over the play calling and James Cook had 17 carries. I think he's going to be more involved with the offense going forward, but the Philly run D is legit, and I don't want to mess with that. I think the way Buffalo is going to beat them is through passing on them, a heavy passing attack. So this is really a Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes type of week, which we haven't really been getting this year, but I think this is a spot for both of them to pop. Rachaad White. This guy's my boy, man. I'm so pissed off that he's questionable. This was such an amazing spot for him to take advantage of a bad run D. But until I get further information, he's off my list this week. The late additions to the injury report, no bueno. But it will really... If I know he's good, I'll play him. But as of right now, it's just too risky for me. Devin Singletary, priced at $6,000. I really... Unless Dameon Pierce is not playing, then I can't play. Then I'll play Singletary. But other than that, I can't pay $6,000 for a guy that's going to be splitting carries, despite how great he's looked. Past 2 weeks, this guy's had 52 freaking carries. 52 carries for Devin Singletary, and he's never had back-to-back 20-plus carries ever in his career. So these past 2 weeks have been a heavier workload for him. And I think that if Pierce comes in, they're going to try to, scale him back. But if he's not, they're going to really need their running game going to beat Jacksonville. Okay, now cheaper options. I do like James Conner here. I think, him and Kyler came back the same week. He hasn't really had his pop game. It's coming, though. He's getting his usage. It's just not translating to touchdowns, catches. And with Michael Wilson out, Hollywood Brown dealing with an injury, maybe they lean on James Conner a little bit more. Ramondre Stevenson, I got to pass here. They're not really using too much on Stevenson. They're really almost splitting carries with Elliott. So even though Stevenson's been okay-ish last couple of weeks, I'm not excited about that matchup. Javonte Williams, another one of Andrew DFS's guys, but not this week, not against the Browns D. I'm sorry. I love Javonte, but I can't do it here. Jerome Ford, though, I can, and you can see the really juicy matchup there. He didn't really get in too much when against the Steelers. Again, that was DTR's first game, and perhaps they were looking for Hunt to come in and sort of help him out with the pass-catching duties. But hey, Ford was targeted 5 times in that game, so he could be used more in the passing attack, and I think there's plenty to go around between Ford and Hunt against a really bad Denver team against the run, and the fact that they have a rookie quarterback back there. So yeah, I like that. Jaylen Warren, I'm cool with him at 5,400 if you guys want to. I don't think he's the highest upside play because he splits with Najee, and we really don't know what's going to happen. At least with Ford and Hunt, we know that they're going to get theirs, and they're going up against the worst run D in the league. But with Warren, they're going up against Pittsburgh. They're going up against Cincy. It's tough. I'll probably fade that one. Darrell Henderson, no way. He probably won't even be activated for the game. Zeke, pass. Najee Harris, pass. Gainwell, Hubbard. Let's scroll through the list. Hunt could be a good play too at 4,800, cheap play. I mean, he got half of the carries, so last week. If you think that trend's going to continue into this one against a really bad run D, it's good. Jerome Ford's been injured in game before too. Let's remember that week against Indianapolis where he went off for a 74-yard touchdown. Everyone thought like, oh, this is his day, this is Ford's game, and then just never came back. Ford looks better between the two, but I think he has more trouble staying on the field. So Hunt's going to be guaranteed to get something here. So I think like at 4,800, you could use him to open up more salary. I might have just talked myself into that one. See, that's the problem. I can really talk myself into any player. And then other than that, I don't see anybody that I really love down here. Just going through the list, yeah, nobody in the 4,000 range. So that takes care of the running backs. Okay, let's do receivers. Start from the top. Cheaper receivers are always fun. I love calling out cheaper receivers. It's harder to get cheaper running backs because running backs are really dependent on their usage. Whereas a receiver, just need that one play, man. You need that one big touchdown. You need that Shakir touchdown. You need that Rondale Moore grab or something like that. So that's what makes them a lot more fun. AJ Brown. He's been dealing with an injury. He's been awfully quiet for the past 2 weeks, but I don't know that this is going to be his bounce back spot. If you want to go crazy, and if this was if this game had good weather, a crazy expensive stack would have been like start Allen and then AJ Brown and Diggs, two receivers that haven't really been like going nuts. I think this could be like they could easily each get like 35 plus. Like I could totally see that happening in this matchup. But again, this is very dependent on weather. So from the expensive guys out here, I'd avoid Chase. I'd avoid Kupp. I wouldn't go Adams against the KC secondary. If you need evidence on why you shouldn't do that, first of all, you have Aiden O'Connell at quarterback. That should be your number one reason. Number two, the following receivers have been held to under 100 yards by the Kansas City secondary. Number one, A.J. Brown. Number two, Justin Jefferson. He got injured in game. Tyreek Hill and Amon-Ra St. Brown. All these players, all these receivers, the Chiefs secondary has not shut them down completely, but under 100 yards, like they're good at stopping wide receiver ones. Then if we keep going down the list, Puka is hard when Kupp's in, so those two just really like temper each other from exploding. One needs to be out for the other to explode, and it looks like both are going in this one. Evans, yeah, he could work. I just don't know that he's going to have a crazy explosive day in this one, especially if they're going to probably try to target Indy through the ground, but dang, man, I'm still like upset that Rachaad White might miss this. This was his spot. Adam Thielen, I can't at 7,300. He was a fun little play at 44, 5,000, 6,000, but 7,300 for Bryce Young's number one receiver. No, thank you. I don't care how good the matchup is. I don't trust Bryce Young. I don't trust the Carolina offense. Devontae Smith is an interesting one because I think a lot of people are going to be on A.J. Brown. So if you want to sort of have a cheaper like in-game stack and do Diggs and Smith, that's fine. But just keep in mind, Diggs and A.J. Brown have been really quiet, and that's usually when you want to play them. And they're both really loud and, in wanting the ball and everything. So like if they see one going off, they could get like that could like really feed into the other like demanding the ball from their quarterback. So again, we're gonna have to see the weather on that. So let's monitor that one a little closely. Okay, $6,000 guys. Tank Dell, you got to fire him up. He's a wide receiver one, double-digit targets in the past 3 weeks. He's good to go. Pittman, 6,800. I can see this one hitting. I can see Pittman going off in this one. Tampa Bay secondary is really bad. You can tell by their ranking on DraftKings. They're bottom 3, bottom 4. Olave, yeah, I wouldn't go there. I mean, Atlanta's secondary is like okay. at covering wide receiver one. So, and Olave really hasn't been like peppered with a lot of targets. Nico Collins. Yeah, I'd rather have Dell. I mean, that would be my preference between the two. He's shown him and Stroud have crazy chemistry. They're both rookies. Like that's his favorite target. I'm not paying for Nico. I'd rather pay 500 more for Dell. Godwin, just like Evans, it's not terrible. 6,300. I'd rather play Godwin here than Evans, and he's been getting targeted. Let's open him up for the audience. So if we go into his game log, he gets around like 6 to 7 targets. I mean, it's nothing elite. Baker Mayfield's your QB. Your upside's always limited. There are better options, but I see the reasoning there. T. Higgins is out. I want nothing to do with Cincinnati because Joe Burrow is also out. DeAndre Hopkins, yes. Ignore that opponent rank 4th or whatever. People just like to run on Carolina, and they really just jump on top of teams, and that's why their passing stats look. Opponents jump on top of the Panthers, so they don't really pass on them. They just run on them all day because they're controlling the game. So that's what's going on there. I don't think the Panthers have an elite secondary whatsoever. Calvin Ridley coming off a crazy good game. They're in a dome. It's not crazy to do Tank Dell and Calvin Ridley. So this could be a high-scoring matchup, but I'm fading it. Like I don't see it that way, but I could see like I'm not gonna completely like rule it out, but you know, Ridley, Tank Dell, like in-game stack isn't terrible. You can do worse. Cooper, Myers, ignore. They're going up against tough secondaries. Kirk, I like to. Usually they alternate. Usually Ridley goes off one week, then Kirk goes off the next week. So, yeah, I can see Kirk. Rashid Rice is too expensive for me at 5,500. That's a little bit too much, even though I recognize that Mahomes is going to go crazy. I just think that a lot of Mahomes' targets are going to go to Kelsey. This is a big, like, Kelsey messed up. I know MVS dropped the ball, but Kelsey did have a red zone fumble. He had 3 drops on the day. Kelsey messed up. I think that this is going to be like, okay, well, let's mess these guys up. Like, let's show the world that, like, we're not terrible. That's the vibe I'm getting out of KC. Sutton, yeah, Cleveland. I'm telling you, Cleveland's a really freaking good defense. I would not touch Sutton this week. Gabe Davis, he's been awfully quiet, but that's pretty much because Shakir's taking over that number 2 role. Even though he doesn't play on the outside, he's a slot receiver. Josh Allen's really not looking Gabe Davis's way, and I don't blame him. I mean, he has one move. He's like, take away that 4 touchdown game that he had against the Chiefs in that crazy divisional round game. What's Gabe Davis? How different is Gabe Davis from MVS? Not all that different. Look at their stats. Marquise Brown, questionable, pass. Drake London against the Saints secondary, pass. I want nothing to do with Ritter, ever. Deontay Johnson, yeah, I gotta. It's not insane, but I'd rather go Pickens here. I think with the change in offensive coordinator, you can see more go to the young guy. Let's see what Pickens can do here. So if you're going to go between the two, I'd go Pickens. I'm not excited about either. Ignore Judy. I wouldn't play Judy in a good matchup, so I'm not playing him against the best, arguably the best secondary in the NFL. Josh Downs, I mean, he's been dealing with a knee injury. His snap counts have really decreased, but damn, this is a really freaking good spot for him to go crazy. Like, if I knew that he was 100%, maybe. They're coming off a bye though, so maybe he is good to go. Let's click into him to see if there's any updates. Yeah, nothing here. He hasn't really been targeted as much. This is where the Carolina game is when his snap counts really started to decrease, and you can see that by his target share here too. So he had 1 target in that game, 3 targets against New England in Europe. He's been playing. He's struggling through a knee injury. It's risky though. Going down the list, we have Demario Noah Brown out, Tyler Boyd ignore, Demario Douglas. That's a tough one. Demario Douglas, He again, Smith-Schuster, Bourne, they were all out. That's why this guy like got more targets. Like I don't really want anything to do with this New England defense. What else? I like Shaheed. Shaheed's a good one with Thomas on IR and with Derek Carr playing. Tutu could be good too. If Cup was out, but Cup's playing. So let's put him off the list. Wandale, my guy that I've used in a couple of lineups early in the season. He's been like, he gets like 4 to 5 targets. It's a low scoring game. Like, I don't know. Wandale is my boy though, man. I remember this, like, I played him in these two matchups right here when he had 6 targets, 8 targets. It's great, but Giants are just hard to trust. It's a tough pill to swallow, but if you're looking for something risky, maybe go Khalil Shakir. And reason being, he's really like, he's running like 70% of the snaps for the Bills, and he's seen, so if we go back to, let's start from week 7 forward, he's seen about 4 targets, at least 4 targets a game, excluding the one against Denver. He popped off for 115. Allen's really looking for him. Like, Shakir's good. He's a good slot receiver. I mean, and Eagles have a really bad secondary. I don't mind throwing Shakir in a Josh Allen stack. But again, check the weather. If the weather's off, then no go for them. Slayton doubtful. Burks out. Marvin Mims, yeah, not against Cleveland. Greg Dortch. This is one of my other boys right here from last season. I used this guy in a lot of lineups, and the fact that Michael Wilson and Michael Wilson's out, Hollywood Brown's dealing with something. This is a really good spot for Greg Dortch to make his comeback into this season. He always comes back late in the season. Like, I remember he went off late last season. I think it's time for Dortch. 8 targets, guys. 8 targets. Not bad at all. So don't expect that to change against the Rams. He's a quick dump-off pass guy. Super quick, super shifty. Last year, he was doing it with, like, no-named QBs. And now he has Kyler. So he can be one to explode. I like him. A.T. Perry would have been great with Jameis Winston, but I'm less keen on him with Carr. Just a little nervous. I like his situation. I just need to see it 2 weeks in a row before I buy it. He got targeted a lot in that Minnesota game, but I want to see how Carr is with him. Trenton Irwin, I like. If you're going to play someone on the Cincy side, Cincy pass catcher, it's going to be Irwin. He could have a relationship with Jake Browning. They're both, like, you know, backup players. Irwin only runs at a decent volume because Higgins is out, so he could be like Browning's safety valve in this game. Not crazy at all. So, like, if you're gonna do that AJ Brown Diggs stack, then you want to play those cheaper guys. And that's pretty much it. Isaiah McKenzie's been taking over the role for Josh Downs in Indy, but I don't trust him. It's hard to tell. Like, they're probably going to split one more game and nothing else. Okay, tight end time. Okay, I hate to do this, guys. You know how I feel about tight end. I love going cheap, but I can't ignore how bad Travis Kelce looked on primetime. You need to go Kelce this week. You need to pay up for Kelce. This is it. This is his week. Schultz, I can see, but I rather go with cheaper options like Kincaid. I mean, it's only $100 cheaper, but Kincaid gets targeted more. I won't like that matchup as much, again, in bad weather. Taysom Hill, when Derek Carr plays, Taysom Hill goes off. So look for him to have another good day. Like, he's been on a bender since week 6, right? Yep, since week 6, he's been doing great. He only, like, went down, like, his points look depressed in the last one against Minnie because Carr went out. He does good when Carr's in. So this guy can do it all. He can do a hat trick and give you a receiving, a passing, and rushing touchdown. I definitely like. I don't really push for double tight end, but Kelsey and then Hill, I wouldn't mind doing that at all. No, McBride, he's been awfully quiet lately, but he has a really good matchup. So 7 targets. I mean, I remember when this guy used to be like, yeah, this is the range that I remember him, man. This was so good when we used to get these like 14 target games, 9 target games, 3,500. But now he got a little more expensive. It's not bad. You're getting plenty of targets. Like, you're getting more targets than Godwin, right? And he's still 4,700. It's not a bad play, especially if you're going to stack Kyler. Njoku. Let's just show you his targets. So I told you it was 15 targets, and I don't BS you guys on this show. The man had 15 targets last game. It only translated to 12 points, but who knows? That's a lot of volume for someone priced at 4,100. And the week before that, he had 9. And the week that he started for that DTR started in Baltimore when they got waxed 3-28, he had 7 targets. So tight ends are rookie QB's best friends. So check that out. Pass on Kyle Pitts. Don't want anything to do with it. Jonnu Smith is the only Falcon that I'd go for this week because Ritter loves to dump off the ball to him. So if you wanted to go cheap at tight end, that's what I would do. I don't really see anything else down here for you guys. So sorry that I don't have a cheap tight end play. I would have loved Tanner Hudson if Joe Burrow was playing, but I mean, the fact that Browning's playing, it's tougher to trust. But he is seeing increased usage. He's a good pass catcher, guys. Like he was well on his way. Like he had 7 targets in that game against Houston. He had 4 targets against Baltimore with Joe Burrow playing half the game. Like he was on his way, and you know, it's not crazy that Jake Browning checks down to him and Irwin. 2,700 is not a bad price if you want to gamble. If you need the room, like he's probably the only one I would play in that list. Like just going down. Yeah, I don't see anything else down here. Sorry, folks. That's as low as I would go. How low would you go? Tanner Hudson. Not crazy confident about it, but I could see it. Defense. This week there's no like cheap defense. Cheapest one is Houston, 2,600. I'd take that, honestly. That's not terrible. Starting from the top, Browns playable, little expensive. Saints against Ritter, yes please. Ritter's a turnover machine. Giants at 3,500, you could do better. Like I'd rather pay up and get Saints or Browns. Colts 3,400. Yeah, I would pass on that. I think that game might be a little more high scoring. Titans. Yeah, 3,400. Stack them up with Henry. That's not bad at all. Not my favorite. I'll show you guys my favorite. Favorite is the Chiefs right here. 3,100. Beautiful, beautiful price. I don't know how chalky they're going to be because public sentiment's pretty low on the Chiefs right now. So this can be a spot for Pacheco and KC defense stack. Again, I'm really like heavy on Chiefs this week. I think this is their time to come out. But if the weather's good in Buffalo, I'm going to have some shares on that one too. This is a week for Buffalo and KC. And then from the cheap guys, I like the Texans the best, if it's not the Chiefs. And I know they're the cheapest, but Trevor Lawrence does get a lot of turnovers. So I like that matchup a lot. But anyways, that is our Week 12 show. If you like this podcast and want more content, please subscribe. We have a YouTube channel at AndrewDFS is my handle. Check that out. Again, Spotify podcast with my boy Sirak. We go on every Wednesday. The episodes go live Wednesday or Thursday. So check us out. It's called Huddle Up. And last but not least, I'm an analyst for AndrewDFSFFmetrics.com, the best projections and insights that you can get on the market, fantasy football, gambling, whatever. The site is run by the brilliant RC Fisher, who comes up with the best predictions in the game. If you need a contrarian edge to your lineups, ffmetrics.com. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, want to wish you the best of luck on your betting endeavors for Week 12. I hope that this little tidbit you can take away from this podcast and win crazy amount of money, whether it's the Millie Maker or any other handicapping or fantasy football things you have going on. So with that, I am out. See you all next week.